Hi, I'm Evelyn Linwood. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. For those of you who don't know, I am a self-published fantasy author. I have one book out. It's called Showing Silver, and it is a coming-of-age fantasy written for adults. Probably technically qualifies as clean, although there is one swear word in it. Yeah. But today, I wanted to do a slightly different video and just talk about the kind of challenges of writing in the era of AI or the age of AI, whatever they're calling it. You'll have to excuse my voice. I am getting over a sinus infection, so. But for the purpose of this video, when I'm discussing AI, I don't mean like all AI. I mean generative AI, large language models, that kind of thing, the kind that's actually impacting publishing and the writing world, not the kind that's being used for like data aggregation or like medical purposes and stuff like that. I'm just talking about the kind that is impacting the arts. Okay. So, some of these challenges may surprise you, some you may already be aware of, and some is just like wonderings, not so much what's actually going on. But I feel like the natural place to start is just to talk about the quote-unquote witch hunt. I have seen a lot of people be accused of using generative AI in their books. Yeah, most of them I had no idea who the author was before I heard the accusation. But honestly, the main thing about this is just the temptation. Well, there's two things. The first is the temptation to change your writing style to avoid the AI red flags, most of which are just normal fiction writing habits. So things like not using em dashes anymore, or avoiding like lists that include groupings of 3. That kind of thing. I've heard people saying semicolons and like Oxford commas are AI red flags, and no. That's just normal fiction writing. So for me, this is my hard line in the sand. Well, one of my hard lines. My first hard line is that I'm not using Gen AI. Period. Full stop. Just not going to use it. My second hard line is I refuse to change my writing to avoid being accused, if that makes sense. Now, I know some people will disagree with me, and that's fine. Everybody's got to do what they think is best, but for me, I'm not changing how I write. I'm not going to give in to that. I don't think that our writing and our art should be shaped by AI, even if it's in that sort of indirect way. And I know that there's no way to avoid it entirely, because it will happen in subtle ways that you don't know about. But if I can control it, that's a line for me. But the other thing to think about with this kind of fear of being accused of using AI is a really common strategy for indie authors, especially newer indie authors, like before you launch your career. People will like save up books that are ready to go. They'll have the first 4 or 5 books in a series completely done, and they'll release them back to back. It's called rapid release. And one of the things that I'm seeing during this time of AI is people who are using this very common, tried and true strategy are finding themselves accused of something they're not necessarily doing, just because people say, oh, you can't write that fast. And it's actually not even 100% true, because some people can write that fast. But in many of these cases, it's not people trying It's not people writing that fast. It's people saving their book to utilize this marketing strategy that has been the go-to for so long. So people will try to rapid release their books, which the idea, it's a two-part idea. The first is that it gives readers a better experience because they have time to really get into a series before they find themselves waiting on the next book. And also it increases the series discoverability just with how algorithms work. But now it comes with a little warning tag that you might be accused of using AI. The next hurdle to overcome is honestly just oversaturation in the market, because it's been saturated. Like this happened before the big Gen AI boom that we had a few years ago when it was, what was it, 2023? But it is worse. There's definitely a lot of AI books out there. I honestly don't think most of them are selling that well. I don't think it's the problem that most people think it is, but it definitely impacts discoverability. And social media is always changing, and there is a lot of things that have changed recently on social media. Whether that's the algorithm, whether it's just that there's more AI material on social media taking up space, I don't know. But I'm seeing a lot of other authors say that it's harder to reach new readers on social media. And so it is getting harder, I think, although I could be wrong. It could just be, one person's experience and the people I know. But it's harder to get traction without paying for ads, and that's not necessarily in everyone's budget, or maybe they're not. Like when you're first starting out, it's very common to try and use the free marketing strategies until you have kind of a backlist to make the paid ads actually worth it and give you a good ROI, a good return on your investment. So there is that. And then I'd say another big thing is like AI piracy. That's what I'm calling it. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So many authors have had their books used to train the LLMs without their consent. Some have given consent, but for the most part, no. As it stands, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of legal recourse for that. That may change over time, who knows. But at this point, an author releasing their book has to accept a high probability that it may be used in this way, which there was always a chance that your book would be pirated, and it's always been something that you kind of have to just be okay with to some degree. Not that you're okay with it, but just mentally when you self-publish a book, you have to be aware that some people are going to steal it. It's just part of the game. And it doesn't mean you're okay with it. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't fight it if you knew how to fight it. But now there's this added piece of it where it's not just that they're stealing it to read it, they're stealing it to kind of tear it apart and use bits and pieces of it to create new things. So often when a lot of the LLMs too are trained on like piracy sites, so often the two happen at the same time. So that's a thing. That's just it's not one of those things that there's really much you can do about. It's just one of those things that you have to get used to, I guess. And it's a new mental challenge. Now, here's the other thing though. Like a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm not going to use Gen AI. Like I say that. And I mean it. For sure I mean it. But there is a certain element of it's in our lives whether we want it to be or not. So for instance, I don't use ChatGPT, and those kinds of things at all. But many people, including many authors, have come to use it just as like a Google search. And I've noticed a certain number of errors popping up, and I don't know if that's why or if it's just people feeling rushed. But there is definitely something to be said for old-fashioned research when you're writing. If AI doesn't know something, it will just make it up. I don't know if you all remember a certain AI telling people to put glue on their pizza to hold the cheese in place. But yeah, that was a thing. And even if you just like want to use a Google search, it pops up an AI summary, and you can avoid that by scrolling past or by including like -AI in your search term. But it's easy to forget that step when you've been using Google more than half your life, and these are like new features that just kind of invaded, and you're sitting there with these new AI features. Like, honestly, sometimes I forget that the top thing is a AI summary, and I'll look at it before I even think about it. Yeah, so then the other thing with this is that a lot of author services that used to be fairly simple to hire now need to be screened for AI. Things like beta readers, copy editors, and cover designers now come with the risk of them just using AI. There was always a risk when you're hiring someone that they wouldn't know what they were doing, but now they might just be having a computer do it for them. You know, someone might, yes, you can hire a paid beta reader, it's a thing. But now there's a chance that instead of reading your book and giving you feedback, they're just feeding it to AI and then giving you what the AI says. Which, if you wanted that done, you could do it yourself. And most authors absolutely do not want it done. There are absolutely people who are still doing a wonderful job with editing, with beta reading and all that, and who don't use AI. It's just that it's harder to find, and you have to be more careful, and reputation matters more than ever. With that, it is harder for authors with editorial expertise to break into that space and earn money on the side. Now, that's a major part of why I've personally shifted my focus away from editorial work. When LLMs hit the scene, and especially when programs like Grammarly started introducing their AI editing, the work honestly dried up. I would love to build up Night Sky Publishing to the point that it reflects my original dream. I want to make it easier for people to self-publish by connecting authors with reliable publishers, cover designers, and even formatters if they want them. But for now, I will be focusing on writing my own books so that I can build up a backlist and dive further into the writing community. Of course, I would still accept editorial work. I still have my email open for that, but it's honestly just not that much available at the moment, so yeah. And then the interesting thing that I'm not going to say this is something that really impacts me per se, but there is, I'm going to call this section Temptations, because circling back to the whole witch hunt thing, well, this one actually does impact me. There is a new wave of internet drama, and it's so easy to click on one video about some author you've never heard of leaving an AI prompt in their book, or maybe like speculations that this one traditionally published book is AI, and then all of a sudden your whole algorithm thinks that's what you want to see, and all you're given is drama. And there's always drama on the internet and in writing spaces. There's always drama. If you want that, you can have that. But I think most of us don't really. We just get curious. And then, yeah. There's also plenty of kindness and wholesome community but poisoning your algorithm is honestly easier than ever. And I know I keep talking about the algorithm, but I'm mostly referring to social media. And the thing is, as I said before, a lot of authors are using social media to kind of as their main form of marketing, myself included. And we don't always have the privilege of staying offline altogether, even if some of us would love to. Personally, I don't really enjoy social media all that much. I used to really enjoy Instagram, but it used to feel different. I used to get really different content. It was like aesthetics, book aesthetics, and people reading, and now it just seems to have changed. I don't know. I do still enjoy like YouTube and Rumble. Primarily YouTube, honestly. Yeah. But the other thing, and this is one that it hasn't impacted me directly, but there does come a point for many authors during most projects where you'll start making a joke about like, why won't this book write itself? And it's just, you hit a genuinely difficult part of the novel. It is a thing. It happens. For most, it's usually the middle. That's why you hear the phrase, the messy middle. And really, it's just this part of the book that you have to either push your way through or kind of pause and figure out what you're doing and then push your way through. Now, I don't use generative AI. For me, it would entirely defeat the purpose of writing. I want to share something uniquely human from my heart to the hearts of readers. But I can understand the temptation during those phases where it's like, I don't even like my story anymore. And yes, most authors will have that phase at some point where it's just like, why won't this book just be done? And I can understand the tendency to get discouraged when you know that these weeks of struggle you're competing with someone who might just type something into a chatbot and have it pop out a whole book right then in a few seconds. And it's just like, there is, even though the quality of what they're making is absolutely dreadful, there is a certain tendency to get discouraged from knowing that that's what you're up against. So, yeah, that's another of the challenges. Okay, moving on from temptations to fear and anxiety. So along with the very real challenges that I've listed comes like kind of a major mental hurdle. Many people in all fields are afraid of being replaced by AI. For most, I honestly don't think that's going to happen. I think it's kind of an overblown thing, and I don't think that it's advancing much more than it already is. So I don't think that the AI that we're having is even that sustainable. So we'll see who's right. But for those in the arts, we're honestly already in direct competition with generative AI. And that does come with a lot of fear. It comes with fear of like, did I start my dream too late? Is it just taken away by AI? Did it eat up all the market? But then I have another set of fears that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. And art has a purpose. Like, it's a core part of being human. We're actually trying to communicate something, whether that's through literature or through like the visual arts. Art is meant to be human. So what happens to us and what happens to our society when we outsource it to a machine? Art can change the world, honestly. It can have major impacts. So I worry about that. And I also worry about the cognitive abilities of individuals using it. Like, people are outsourcing thinking itself along with their creativity. And if you think back to when we got like calculators in our pockets and the navigations in the cars, the Google Maps and stuff, most people can't do mental math anymore. And how many people do you know who know how to drive across the country without a GPS? It used to be a lot more people had that ability. A lot more people kind of knew what they were doing with those. So I just worry that we're losing the ability to think. At least the people who are using Gen AI are. Not to mention the kind of psychosis that seems to go along with it in some cases. That's, again, another serious concern. I worry about people. But yeah, as far as starting your writing career during the age of AI, I'd say that while it sounds like big changes, the main hurdle is honestly just mental. Publishing has always come with plenty of mental hurdles, so I do think that authors will adapt. I think authors are already adapting. And I would say if you're just starting your career now, like me, it's not too late. AI has not ruined it. It's going to be fine. There are definitely things that we need to learn in order to kind of stand out from the Gen AI content. I say content when I mean slop. But there's a learning curve, and I'm still on the curve trying to learn, but I don't think that it's ruined. Nothing is lost. It's going to be okay. I do sometimes miss the time before Gen AI existed, but we're going to be okay out there. So if you've watched this far, thank you. If you have some other hurdle that came to mind, please share it below. If you've had experiences with this kind of thing, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. This is honestly a topic I find particularly interesting. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.